Welcome back to the deep dive. So today we're digging into something really quite unique. It's Portugal's approach to citizenship, and specifically for two groups who face, well, enormous challenges: stateless persons and refugees. Our mission today is basically to unpack how Portugal has set up these special pathways. What does it mean in practice for people applying? What are the key takeaways from the materials you've looked at? It gets into policy, yeah, but really it's about the human impact too.
Absolutely. And what jumps out right away when you look at the framework is this clear commitment they have. They explicitly talk about a humanitarian approach to nationality issues. And it seems like it's more than just words. It really shapes the specific rules they've put in place.
Right. So it's designed to offer a path to belonging for people who desperately need it. And when we talk about who this is for, it's very specific, isn't it? This isn't just general immigration policy.
Exactly. It's very targeted. The policies clearly outline two distinct groups who can use these, let's call them, facilitated pathways. First, you have individuals who are officially recognized as stateless. These are people, who no country recognizes as a citizen. They're kind of in legal limbo, often shut out from basic rights.
Like education, healthcare,
Yeah,
things we take for granted.
precisely. And the second group, that's individuals who've already been granted refugee status in Portugal. So people who fled persecution or war and found safety there. For both these groups, Portugal has consciously created a route towards stability, towards citizenship.
Okay, that makes sense. So two very distinct groups needing support. Let's get into the details then. For someone who is officially stateless, what are the actual requirements? What boxes do they need to tick?
Well, the first hurdle, and it's a big one, is getting that official recognition as stateless. That's non-negotiable for this path. Beyond that, they need to have lived legally in Portugal for at least 5 years. There's also a language requirement demonstrating basic Portuguese, which makes sense for integration. And fairly standard stuff here, no serious criminal convictions. Specifically, nothing leading to a sentence over 3 years.
Got it. 5 years residency, basic language, clean record, and that crucial stateless status recognition. And what about for those already granted refugee status in Portugal? Is it pretty much the same deal?
It shares some common ground, yes, but there are slight differences, nuances really. They also need 5 years of legal residence, but it's specifically 5 years with refugee status. Basic Portuguese knowledge is required too, again for integration. But here's an interesting one. They need to show ties with the Portuguese community.
Ah, okay. So that sounds like more than just living there. What does that actually mean in practice?
Yeah, it suggests something more active. Not just passive residency. It could be things like being involved in local groups, maybe cultural activities, or just showing real social connections. It really points towards Portugal wanting to see genuine integration, not just someone fulfilling a time requirement. And, like the stateless path, a clean criminal record is also necessary.
Okay, so the ties to the community part really highlights that integration focus. We've covered who qualifies and the basic requirements, but you mentioned Portugal's approach stands out. What about these accelerated procedures? How does that actually help someone going through this?
Right. This is where that humanitarian approach really shines, I think. These aren't just minor tweaks. They offer real advantages for both stateless people and refugees. What the materials suggest is, first, significantly reduced documentation requirements.
That sounds huge because getting documents must be incredibly hard for these groups.
Exactly. Imagine being stateless. You might have no official ID from anywhere. Or a refugee who fled with nothing, asking for, say, a birth certificate or old residency papers. It can be impossible. So Portugal seems to recognize this reality. They ease up on those demands. It's not just bureaucracy, it's removing a massive barrier.
Makes sense. What else falls under accelerated?
Well, linked to that, there are exemptions from some requirements that might apply to other citizenship applicants, more flexibility. This often leads to faster processing times compared to the standard routes. And there's also greater flexibility around proving where you came from, your origin. Again, acknowledging documents might be missing.
Okay, so less paperwork, fewer standard hoops, potentially faster decisions, and more understanding about missing documents. That paints a clear picture. But they still need some documentation, right? What are the basics they generally need to gather?
Yes, definitely. There are still core documents. You absolutely need that official proof of your stateless or refugee status. That's key. Your valid Portuguese residence permit, naturally. Some form of basic language certification, though. Importantly, the policy hints at accommodations being possible here, too.
Accommodations? Like what?
Well, it might mean the assessment is more flexible. perhaps focusing on practical speaking ability rather than formal tests, especially given their backgrounds. You also generally need some proof of integration, maybe related to those community ties we discussed,
Mm.
a criminal record check from within Portugal, and of course the actual application form itself.
Right, and you mentioned flexibility and support seem to run through this whole process. What other special considerations make this path more, well, accessible?
Yeah, the flexibility is really built in. As we said, documentation rules are less rigid. Portuguese authorities might accept other forms of evidence for identity if standard papers aren't available. The language assessment, as I mentioned, can be more lenient. And critically, there seems to be a strong support system in place. Refugee support organizations often play a big role helping people navigate the process.
Like guides, almost.
Sort of, yeah, helping them understand the steps, gather what they need. And another key point is that legal aid is often available for applicants in these situations, so they can get professional help without, the potentially prohibitive cost. It shows a system designed to help, not hinder.
That support network, the legal aid, it sounds like it could make all the difference. So for someone listening, maybe thinking about this path, can we just walk through the steps, start to finish?
Sure, it's fairly logical once you understand the pieces. Step 1. Make absolutely sure you have that official recognition either as stateless or as a refugee in Portugal. That's your entry ticket. Step 2. Complete the required 5 years of legal residence. That clock needs to have run down. Step 3. Gather your documents, all the ones you can get, keeping in mind that flexibility we talked about. Use the support available.
Okay, status confirmed, residency done, documents gathered. Then what?
Then you formally submit your application. Fill out the form, attach everything. Step 5 is paying the application fee, whatever that might be. Step 6 is waiting. But hopefully, as we discussed, it's an expedited wait compared to standard processes. And finally, step 7, if everything checks out, you receive your Portuguese citizenship certificate. You're officially a citizen.
Wow. Okay, so recapping this deep dive. What really stands out is Portugal's very deliberate humanitarian approach. We've seen these clear pathways they've built for stateless people and refugees, the huge advantage of the accelerated, more flexible procedures, and this underlying support system that seems designed to genuinely help people find belonging.
Exactly. And I think what this Portuguese policy really underscores is that for these specific groups, citizenship is about so much more than just a legal status. It's fundamentally about dignity, about security, about having a place. By creating these facilitated pathways, Portugal offers a kind of practical example, doesn't it?
Sure.
How nations can respond to huge global issues like displacement and statelessness.
That's a powerful point.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? We live in a world with millions displaced, countless people lacking any official nationality. So what does it signify when a country like Portugal steps up? When it doesn't just acknowledge these vulnerable populations, but actively smooths their path to belonging? How does that change the conversation? Moving people from statelessness to citizenship, from that precarious refugee label to a stable national identity. It sort of challenges our typical ideas about borders and who belongs where, maybe pushing towards a greater emphasis on, fundamental human rights.
That's a really profound thought to end on. It definitely highlights the incredible difference policies like these can make, not just changing individual lives, which is immense in itself, but also shaping how we think about identity, stability, and inclusion on a much broader scale.